I have got one, two, three. Hey, I got 6 games to talk to you about right here. We're going to do it sort of rapid fire. It is a beautiful Saturday. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. I want you guys to just think about what could be happening. I mean, we've got Texas fresh off having hung 70 on someone, and they're favored by what, 5 points on the road against TCU. This is a noon kickoff. There are a couple of players last week, if you did not see the TCU SMU game, that did not play. Corey Bethley, big time nose tackle for TCU, and Kari Coleman is probably their best edge rusher. They didn't play last week. They're back. Those are game changers. Please don't be just so lazy to look at the finals last week and say, oh, this is free money. It's not, friends. Free money does not exist. What is the outlier, though? That's what we got to ask ourselves. Because TCU got beat, rested, no less, last week against SMU. Texas, we have seen them both get blown out and blow someone out. We got to figure out what the outliers are and what the norm is. And this is an odds maker pretty much telling you, well, we think it's somewhere in between. We don't quite know where. So if you're overly confident in Texas, have at it. Need not remind our Texas fans out there what this series has been like lately. So if you think it's free money, I would just encourage you a little Google search, TCU Texas series history. But Bijan Robinson, Zach Evans, what a running back matchup here. I am going to go out on a little bit of a limb, or go out on a limp, as our brother Lane Kiffin would say. I'm going to take Texas to win, and I am going to take Texas to cover. It may be a little bit square in nature. I do think they found something with Casey Thompson. He's got some insane streaks going on right now. So give me the Horns to win, Horns to cover. Michigan is at Wisconsin. This is a point spread that also does not make sense to someone who is not regularly immersed in the odds-making world or doesn't bet. I'm not encouraging you to dive in. I'm just trying to explain to you what's happening right here. Because you look at it and you say Michigan's undefeated. Wisconsin's got 2 losses. They can't stop turning the ball over. Why would Wisconsin be a 2-point favorite at home or anywhere versus Michigan? Well, there's the turnover situation, first off, that is never carried over. Like, odds makers will watch you turn the ball over and over again. They are not factoring that into future spreads, because there is coming a time where that offense will balance out for Wisconsin. And the other thing is, for the first time last week, we saw someone limit Michigan on the ground, that being Rutgers. The final, I think, was 20-13, which was well inside the spread. And so an odds maker's looking and saying, well, if Rutgers did that, Wisconsin got one of the best run defenses in the country. And that is where the most interesting facet of this game kind of inserts itself. There's this weird split among people who follow Michigan. There's a split, and on one side of the fence, there are people who think, well, the reason we're running it is because that's all we can do effectively. Cade McNamara in this offense, we don't have any explosivity. We cannot be consistent through the air. Then on the other side of the fence, there's this other camp that believes, oh, it's there. It's there. We just have not had to pull it out yet. I think I'm a lot more in line with Camp A than Camp B. But I will tell you, if Camp B is right, they will be the reason Michigan wins this game. They're not running the ball very successfully on Wisconsin. And what I'm very interested in is, if this becomes a game where you have to rely on a quarterback to win, which one do you trust more? Graham Mertz is turning the ball over left and right. Cade McNamara, we aren't confident what he can do at his maximum potential or capability. I went back and forth all day on this. I rode Wisconsin last week, and they led in the fourth quarter and lost 41-13. The only way that happens is turnovers. Very misleading final. I'm going to go right back to the well. Not betting on them, but I'm going to go back to the well. I'm going to take Wisconsin as a short underdog to win this game outright in Madison. And Michigan their first loss, if that is to happen. My favorite Big Ten game of the week is Indiana at Penn State. It's a night kickoff. Love Penn State in this spot. It's one of the first best bets we had of the week. We got the game when it was at Penn State minus 10.5. I think it's all the way up to 12 or 12.5 right now. I love everything about Penn State in this spot. You remember what happened in this game last year. It was the first of, what became several bumps down a very, very rocky hill for Penn State. But this is a superior team. They have got the home advantage. They've got the revenge edge here. As you see, the line now is 12.5. I expect early pressure, because I think a fast start is in order for Penn State. And so I expect early pressure to be placed on an Indiana team that has been very mistake prone, very turnover prone. Michael Penix has been very turnover prone in his own right. I think it's going to be a really, really good night for Penn State. I know that number looks big. It's not nearly big enough. I think Penn State's going to win this thing, and they're going to stretch the margin, as James Franklin is one to do. If you've ever bet against James Franklin, you've had a big underdog against James Franklin. There have been more than a few times where he's going to hurry up, up 3 or 4 touchdowns late, try and get that cover. He knows the alumni. He knows who they're betting on. So you see Indiana at Penn State. This is some of the series history. Looking forward to that one. Hey, there's an undefeated against undefeated matchup in the Big 12 that we need to discuss for just a second here. Baylor and Oklahoma State. It kicks off at 7. I can tell you that. The line right now is, I think, Oklahoma State minus 3.5. I can tell you that. And the reason I'm telling you what I do know is because there's a whole lot we don't know here. It's hard to find a discernible edge. I looked at this game for like 30 minutes today, and there are little 1s or 2s on the 1 to 10 scale either way. There is no 7 or 8. I don't really have a heavy lean here. I don't know who Oklahoma State is because every game they've had, they've been a different version of themselves. I don't know if Cowboy fans know who they are. This Baylor defense, I think, is good enough to limit them. I think it's good enough to make them uncomfortable. They're still finding their way. It's rare that you say that 4 or 5 weeks into the season, but I really think that Oklahoma State offense, for an undefeated team and a Mike Gundy team, normally that means it's a known commodity, still finding its way. Love the curve that I think they've turned under Dave Aranda at Baylor. I'm going to take Baylor to win the game outright, cover the 3.5, win the game outright in the process. I think the most underrated game of the weekend is happening at UCLA. This is Arizona State at UCLA. UCLA is favored by 3. To me, it's the under the radar game of the week. These are really good teams. We have both of them ranked inside the JP poll top 25. Dorian Thompson-Robinson went out of the game last week. That's the quarterback for UCLA. It looks like he's going to go. Sam Marazzo is a guy I have my eye on. He is the center for UCLA. Questionable status right now. Can't really get definitive word out there. Otherwise, this is a heavy UCLA lean for me. I like the Bruins a lot in this game. We added them today to the Ramen Noodle Express. So I'm taking UCLA minus 3. Of course, that means UCLA to win. And Friday night, oh man, nose itches. Friday night, tomorrow night, if you're watching live, this is exciting for the Big Ten. I know I told you Indiana at Penn State's my favorite Big Ten game, but this one's got a very special place in my heart too. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff Eastern time tomorrow night. Iowa is a 3-point favorite at Maryland. Okay, so it's a very, very stark contrast in styles. It is a classic tortoise versus hare scenario here. I don't have a strong feel on the game. Our numbers indicate the line's pretty much right. I've got a sneaking suspicion this is going to be a good night for Maryland. And a lot of you think I'm an Iowa hater because we have them in the 13 range in the JP poll. It's not that. It's not that at all. If you'll just, never mind. I'm not. It's not a ranking, guys. If I were ranking Iowa, I'd have them inside like the top 6 or 7. But it's a power rating. Iowa, I think they're going to go down. I don't have a strong feel on that, but I would take Maryland. Love the edge at quarterback. I would take them to win. And that is a loaded schedule. I'm telling you now, aside from the marquee games, we got a loaded college football schedule this Saturday.